how to build emotional dependence. That's what we're going to cover today in this video. We're going to talk about emotion. We're going to talk about your thought process. And it's very important for you to understand those mechanics, because if you want to move on, if you want to heal from your breakup, and actually if you want to recover the relationship, if you want to get back with your ex, you need to understand how your brain works and how you can detach yourself emotionally. It is very important, because today it's really about how you can regain that freedom. I'll explain you after everything after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
And so what happens, and perhaps you recognize yourself, we are sort of hunted by some thoughts, obviously negative thoughts. Sometimes when we go to bed, or when we wake up, and we want to stop this thought. We want to stop it really, really hard. And the thing is, most tips that you see online are really about how can you distract yourself from this. The point of this video is to really have what a counselor will do with his or her client, is really about understanding those mechanics, understanding how it works, and find the right tools so you can, rather than distract yourself from your thoughts, work on them. It is fundamental for you to understand that it's not about dismissing things, it's really about working on those things. And the big difference when you do that is that this is how you can create substantial results. This is how, even if you don't get back with your ex, you'll be stronger as a result of this breakup. Because you're going to learn, that's my objective in this video, you're going to learn something new about yourself, and you're going to build that resilience. Because understanding how you can be emotionally detached or independent is crucial if you want to have successful relationship, friendship, love relationship, colleagues. So important for you to master this emotion. Very quickly, before I move on, I want to remind you that I put together a quiz for you to know if you have any chance to get back with your ex. The idea is to provide you an assessment of your chances, ranking from no chances to have a high chance to get back with your ex. The link is in the description. Have a look. There's also other links in the description. Feel free to have a look. Some materials, free stuff, links to get in touch with me. Have a look if you want to continue and expand your understanding in terms of your relationship, in terms of relationships, in terms of your personal development. Okay, so is that you? You feel great during the day at work, and then out of nowhere you have something entering your mind and you feel overwhelmed, you feel anxious. Maybe it's because you checked social media and you see your ex or a status update. Maybe you receive a text. Perhaps it's a situation that triggers that. A conversation with someone random, but that really sort of triggers something within yourself. And that emotion, those thoughts create those emotions, and you feel drained emotionally. So very often what I'm describing is very typical of when I speak with my clients, is that they feel great during the day, and at some stage, bam, they're getting back to that sadness, getting back to that almost the minute the ex decided to end the relationship with them. And they get stuck. They feel stuck. They're sort of hunted by those thoughts and are struggling to let go. That's probably how you feel right now. It's a picture, it doesn't make sense, but it's a picture of a horse with flies flying around. And you have those thoughts exactly. Imagine yourself in the field like a horse. There's really doing something that's super annoyed by flies, and this is what you are doing with your thoughts. It's super annoying. And you have those thoughts, will he call me? Or she call me? Will I find someone? What should I say if he texts me? What should I told him? Should I told him this? And you have those thoughts, and you're playing, and you tried fighting with those thoughts like they are sort of poking you, right? The question is, how can you get away get rid of those flies, sorry. These thoughts, and we're going to analyze in a more detailed way, these thoughts are unproductive. You might be thinking like, yeah, because I want to analyze, I want answers, and so it's very important for you to assess those things, to understand those things. But my challenge for you is that to check the difference between a question that you might have in your head, what should I do if he say this or if he writes this, versus what do I want to do this weekend? Do you see the difference? You might be looking at your to-do list, and it's fine to do that, but there's one action that you own. And the problem is that when you are spending your time obsessing on something you don't have the control of or about, I don't know what's the right way to say it, then you freak out, then you obsess. Because as you don't have the answer, as you don't have the control, you think, I need to put more attention into this. And this is why breakup creates that form of anxiety. So I'm a UK approved anxiety therapist. And it's fascinating because there's so many similarities with the people I help outside of my the work I do on YouTube, and with people who are sort of struggling after a breakup. And the reason is because it's your ex who holds that part of the answer. And you are draining yourself emotionally, again and again obsessing on something where you don't have control of. You have no clarity, no certainty. And that makes you sick. That makes you anxious. So really, and we're going to look towards the end, few examples, few exercises that you can do at home. But the point is to really challenge your thoughts, understand whether is it helping me, or is it blocking me? Is there a way for me to have an answer to this question? Or do I need my ex or anyone or anything to get that answer? If that's the case, I'll park this. I don't need this because I can't answer this. And I accept that I can't answer this question. So the here and now. Another thing that you can do is those thoughts usually are either about the future. What if he texts me? What if I go there? How should I dress? All these kind of things. Or how should I dress? You can control. Bad example. Other thoughts could be about the past. I should have told him. I should have been more productive. I should have been more understanding. I should have been around. I could have. Okay? The problem with those thoughts is that what is in the past, what happened in the past, you can't change it. It's too late. You have to accept that you can't change it. And things that are about the future, be mindful of the things that you can't control. And the same, you have to accept that you can't do anything about it. So next time you start thinking about your relationship and you have those intrusive thoughts, think whether they're about the past or about the future. And it is why mindfulness is extremely helpful to help with anxiety. Because mindfulness is really about the here and now. Rather than projecting yourself into the future, rather than looking backwards, mindfulness and other type of exercises linked around anxiety is really about how you can center yourself and be in the here and now. Okay? The more you spend time on the here and now, the better you'll feel. It's mechanic. So should you dismiss those thoughts? So as we discussed in the intro, my job is not to dismiss things that are going on within yourself. My job as a counselor is to help you understand and take control. I'm really about helping people to regain control. So when I do hypnotherapy with my clients, it's also about how I can help them regain control of that unconscious part of their brain. Thoughts are neutral. You might not feel like this because those thoughts generate emotions. But thoughts are neutral. And that's something that I do with my clients, is really about how can we challenge, how can we, by having a discussion, by having some sessions and assessing each week their thoughts, how can I show you that your thoughts are neutral? It's the emotions that we want to move away from. It's the emotion that we want to get rid of, but not the thoughts. If you think about it, people tell me, yeah, but I'm ruminating, I'm obsessing on this, and I want to stop being obsessed about this. What is bad is not the obsession, is what you're obsessing about. If you're obsessed by the fact that your life is amazing, if you're ruminating of those thoughts, and every day when you wake up, oh, my life is amazing. When you go to bed, my life is amazing. I don't think that's an issue. The issue is the emotional impact of those rumination and the thoughts associated with those. So what do we do with that? This is what you've learned, because it's a learned behavior. I read a book recently about anxiety from a French psychiatrist. Don't remember his name. And there's been studies like anxiety is in a way a learned behavior. So maybe you don't feel like you're anxious, but what you're doing, those things and thoughts and emotions are in a way learned. The same as a baby walking towards the oven. He doesn't know that burns. He burns himself. This is dangerous. I'll never touch the door of the oven again. So this breakup was painful. This conversation was painful. I'm staying away. And what you do is you resist. I don't want to have this, I don't want to have to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. Because I know it's making me sad. I'm crying. The more I think about him, the more I resist, and I resist. And so you're neither dismissing, and because you want to dismiss, you're actually making it worse because you resist. The whole point of what we do in therapy is not about resistance, it's about understanding. I'm going to say understanding a lot in this video. It's about understanding and acceptance. So what's going on? Your emotions, what's going on in your head, is somehow like a double-decker bus that we have in London here. The first deck is your emotions about the past. About your ex, about that feeling of rejection, anything on the back of your breakup. Now the problem is that you have, because you resist, because you don't want to deal with those emotions, you have the upper deck, which is like thinking about this rumination. I had a client the other day on the call, which was like, yeah, I think I spend more time feeling guilty that I'm thinking about this. I think this is what drains me the most emotionally, is the fact that I know that I'm ruminating on this. And so you have this one deck over the other deck. It's like almost like a cake. And so you feel guilty because you're not feeling well, and you know that you're not feeling well, and you're ruminating on the fact that you know that you're not feeling well. And that leads to emotional exhaustion. So what do we do about that? Really important for you to observe. You can control you can control the rationale of what's going on in your head. Observe and really and that's why therapy is quite helpful, because I can observe and I can challenge things. It's harder to do it for yourself, but I think it's a good exercise for you to try anywhere. Is whenever you feel overwhelmed, you try to pause. Maybe it's by doing breathing exercises, maybe it's because reminding yourself of that image of this bus, and think, okay, which side of the bus am I ruminating about? The fact that I'm ruminating, is it an emotion about the breakup? Remove the judgment Because now what you're doing is like you're judging yourself. You feel like, oh yeah, I'm so stupid. I feel guilty about thinking about that. Don't dismiss it. The idea of what we are doing here is not to dismiss those things, but is to run towards them. That's very, very scary. You go towards and you don't run away. Because by going towards, you will understand. If you run away, what will happen is that this will come back. If you run away, and that's why the tips that I see online, distract yourself, play basketball or find a new hobby. Of course, it's good. But if you don't address the root cause of your depression, of your anxiety, as soon as you get back home, you're alone. Bam, it really kicks in. As soon as you receive a text from your ex, bam, it will kick in. So how can you heal? How can you feel better? How can you find this strength if you don't deal with it? So what you also have to understand is challenge those thoughts. Like if it's absurd, it doesn't create an emotion. It's the importance of that emotion, of that thought, that creates an emotion. If you believe that it has an impact, it will have an emotional impact. So it's really also about changing that belief system. And ask yourself, is it useful? And what's the alternative story? I'm thinking about whether he's going to text me. Is it useful to think about that? What could be the alternative story? Write down, keep a journal. Think about all those thoughts that you have, that you're obsessed about when you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning. Slow down the process. Because very often, as we are busy, we're always on our social media, scrolling and stuff like that. And it is when our thoughts enter our mind, when you actually don't invite them, slow down the process. Understand that there's something going in your head, entering your head, slow down the process. Is it the past? Is it the future? Is it something I can control? Is it helping me? And the more you challenge those thoughts, the less intense emotionally they'll become. So what's next? Some tips. Slow down the process. Find compassion within yourself. If you feel like this, it's because you're a human being. It's not about being weak. It's not about being... It's just that you don't have the tools. The fact that you create those reflex, as we saw with the picture of the baby, is just because our brain creates those stress mechanism to help us survive. The problem is that the danger that or the belief system about danger is a bit different nowadays than it was when our brain started to develop. And so it's really about how you can visualize those thoughts. Entering your mind, visualize them. Are they in the future? Are they in the past? Where am I on the deck? Of course, this is actually quite tricky to do on your own, but try to do it on your own. This is what you could do with a therapist. Perhaps you want to find a local one where you live, or you want to get in touch with me. But it is a very powerful exercise because, again, the idea here is not to dismiss things, it's not to run away from things, it's to go towards them. Go towards them because you're going to learn, you're going to feel empowered and better about yourself. Now, in terms of what should you expect, it's not a switch that you can, click on and off. It's a process. So if you see a therapist, if you start journaling and looking at those thoughts, it's going to take a bit of time. It's a muscle. Creating those new neural pathways take time. So it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel difficult. It's exactly if you've tried to meditate. The first time you meditate, it's like, whoa, so hard. And then you do it for a week consistently, and then it's easier. So it's exactly the same thing. So it's how you can regain control and be know more about yourself. And you'll see out of this is such an amazing experience. Trust me, it will help you in your love life, with your friends, with your colleagues. Also, if you think about work, like procrastination is really about emotion as well. So all these aspects of your life will be impacted. And if you have any question, if you want to discuss with me, there's a few links in the description. Don't hesitate. Bye-bye.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.